Oh, good afternoon. It is Saturday. I'm on my way to drop off my son's hockey gear to him, and I'm here to talk about. This is John, by the way. I'm an alcoholic, sober today. How did I get sober? That's a good question. How do you stay sober? How do you live sober? How do you be sober? I want to talk about the one part of how did I get sober. How to get sober was it was a while ago, but I will it's real fresh in my mind because I'll never forget the pain and discomfort and humility and just slamming myself to the ground for no real reason except just I don't know. I look back and I just wonder how I did that to myself. But anyway. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I was born in LA. I was native Californian. My mom and dad were great parents. They gave me everything I wanted. They didn't beat me. I was never molested. I just had no real excuse. My dad showed up every morning to take me to sports practice. There was no real alcoholism in my family. My mom and dad drank socially, at dinners, and there was no raging going on. So really, what was it? I don't know. I look back. I was that kid in school that I was a good athlete, and I worked hard, and I had all the different things that got picked on. But everyone got picked on, and I picked on people, and I decided that wasn't a good idea because I didn't want to treat people the way they were treating me. So I wanted to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. So I learned that early on. The only way I could look at it is I got in the nightclub business, and how I did that was in school. When I was 11th grade in high school, I was invited to the senior party for some reason. My buddy and I were just invited to these senior parties. We'd go to the proms, and but what happened was in my senior year, the parties were so lame that they kept getting shut down by the police, and they were never really the way I thought they should be. And so I decided to have my own parties, and we rented buildings out, and it grew from there. And I ended up on the Sunset Strip running a place called the Roxy Theater and the Whiskey A Go-Go for a decade for Mario and for Elmer and Lou, who really kind of ran and controlled the Sunset Strip. So in many ways, I was the purveyor of the nightlife of the 1980s on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and Los Angeles with my partner, who was the ex-drummer of the band The Grassroots. His name was Joel Larson. So, 1979, I met Joel at a roller rink, which was a place called Flippers, and it was owned by Denny Cordell, who owned Shelter Records, and the building was owned by Barry Gordy that owned Motown Records. And I got to make my first deals on a large level with these guys on a building that held about 2,000 people. And it was amazing. So Joel sat in the first meeting. They were trying to take advantage of this nice kid from the Valley, and he said to me, he goes, I can make you a deal. I can help you make a really great deal if you bring me on board. So I went along with Joel, and Joel and I ended up being friends and partners for a decade now. What was interesting was Joel was also like a dealer to the stars. We're talking about some pretty interesting people. He lived at the top of Kings Road, and he was people like Peter Morton that owned the Hard Rock, and Andy Gibb and Don Johnson were all customers, and we were partying in the 80s, and it was crazy. So here I was, right in the middle of it. Oh, let me back this up a little bit. I was a DJ, a billboard reporting DJ prior to this nightclub business nonsense. So I was playing clubs when I was underage, and I gotta tell you, the very first person that turned me on to cocaine was Goldie Hawn, and God bless Goldie. She was sitting on a glass table with a mountain of cocaine on it with some silly straws, and how could this be bad, right? So she asked me if I wanted some, and of course I wanted some. And I think even Dan Haggerty was in the room at that time. But this was in Encino, California, and that was sort of my I got going right there and then. So taking that DJ vibe to the clubs in Hollywood, that's how I ended up meeting Joel, because I threw a big party sort of back up in 1979. I went to Flippers, had a party, there were 2,000 people there, and Flippers was trying to make a deal with me and to make this happen. So anyway, Joel and I became partners. So I learned early on that cocaine was a great tool to influence people and to make deals and to, ultimately it influenced me. But at the time, I was influencing people and having a great time. And hey, you know what? It was the 80s and we were learning it was vodka and cocaine and the Roxy Theater and the Whiskey a Go-Go. I mean, I partied with some fantastic people, and years have gone by, and I was gradually watching my money going from one hand to the next, and it was leaving me. So no matter how much money I made, no matter how hard I tried, it would always go away. So here I was running these fantastic clubs. I had a nice car, a nice house, but this cash flow, 4 nights a week, I was running the biggest clubs in Los Angeles, 4 nights a week, making nothing but cash. I couldn't hang on to it. And ultimately, it was starting to suck, and it started to hurt me, and I was starting to feel not very good about it. And in 1986, I decided that I wanted to quit, because it was just kind of felt like I was just sort of sick and tired. I had these crazy, I knew that I was going to die, but I knew I was going to die not just by, I graduated from snorting cocaine now to freebasing, and my company sort of changed, and I was hanging out with some really interesting people, and I knew that the circumstances going to kill me instead of the drugs. I was smart enough to understand that, so I knew I needed to stop. Plus, I was puffy, and I was ugly, and I just didn't feel good about myself. I was zeroed out. I had no more money, and I don't know, I went from being this guy to another human being that I just did not know. It was almost like Superman's kryptonite. I was taking heavy doses of that daily, and it was killing me. So I knew this, so I had to stop. But how to stop was this great ride. I was in this bubble merry-go-round going around and around. So in 1986, I went to the Pacific Group, talked in by a friend of mine, Kelly Gabriello, and she said, hey, I love you enough to want to see you get sober. We partied together, so now it's time. I show you. I'm going to be your Eskimo. But I wasn't ready. I went to the Pacific Group. I got 13th step, and I bounced out of there, so I was not ready. And I went back, and I swore I wasn't going to use again, but still half a gram won't hurt me. And then half a gram started leading right back up to full-blown, half ounce, quarter ounce, whatever it was, however many grams we did in a day. It was just ridiculous. But it was, so something happened along the way from 86. I bounced around 86 to 89, losing everything, girlfriends and things, possessions, my mind. And then all of a sudden, I met this guy at a gym, Gary Dubin, and I was really excited about it. It was sort of a moment I was sober within a week or so. And so Gary, you got to get sober. It's the best thing I've ever did. Even though I'm bouncing around, I'm feeling really good. I'm on this pink cloud. So I tell Gary, so Gary stays. Well, Gary goes and gets sober, but I don't even know, because I don't see Gary after I leave the gym. So, but I know I go out and get high the next, in a couple days. So I certainly wasn't going to meetings. So when I finally arrived to the meetings, it's 1989, January 17th, 19. I walked down the driveway of Studio 12 in Studio City, California, on Magnolia Boulevard. It was run by a guy named Tom Kenny. So I said in this meeting, it was a speaker meeting, and for those who really don't know about meetings, when you go to a meeting, just so you know, people will say hello to you if they know you, but they're kind of all there for a reason. There really is no white light that's going to be shown on you, and you don't really need to stand up if you don't want to, and you're not going to be, if you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't have to. You can sit in the back of the room, and so I just do that. I just show up, and but they're people I knew. And, so the way this meeting was set up was there was a speaker, and there was a break, and then during the break, I was going to make my getaway because I was kind of just not feeling it. I was still sort of slung over. I'd been up for 2 days, and it was just awful. And this guy walks up to me as I'm walking down the driveway. He says, John. I was like, turn around and go, Gary? It's Gary Dubin. Gary says, John, you talked me into this thing a couple years ago, and God dang it, John, I'm taking a year sober. I'm taking a cake next week to be sober for 1 year, and I need you to give me that cake. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to stay here for another week. Well, that was what it took. Gary gave me a big hug, and I'll never forget this because it was so bizarre. I just went back in the room in the second half of the meeting, and I found myself fully laughing at the conversations, and I felt the humility, the humility of being able to laugh at myself and laugh at like some of the things that people were laughing at themselves about. You know what I mean? It became a much more lighter situation. It was almost like a moment of clarity. It was a very kind of a spiritual experience in many ways, and I think it was maybe one of my spiritual encounters, but it was definitely a moment of clarity. It was interesting, and so Studio 12 I embraced. It was exactly where I needed to be. There was a fantastic cast of characters there, most of which are still sober, most of which I still talk to and I see around on Facebook or I actively talk to. I can't keep track of. A lot of people that when they spoke, I remembered exactly what they said. It was just this fantastic meeting of people that just wanted this thing real bad, and they were working a great program, and I got very lucky to hook up with a guy named Greg Cheever. Greg Cheever really took me under his wing, and he even said to me, he goes, I don't really think you're going to stay sober, but I'll work with you anyway. It was exactly what I needed to hear. I was like, fuck him. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to stay sober, whether he likes it or not, right? Dang it. So, but I stayed sober, and, what was great was he, we would do things, not just Studio 12. We'd go to Roxbury Men's Stag, and we would, meet at the Apple Pan. We'd ride in the car over from the Valley. So we had the meeting before the meeting. We'd meet at the Apple Pan for dinner. So it was the meeting at the Apple Pan, and then the Men's Roxbury Stag meeting, which was the meeting, and then we'd have the meeting after the meeting on the ride back. So being of service was a huge part too. I got 50 hours of community service for overcrowding a restaurant while I was sober. So I got to be feeding the homeless with Ray Castellani from Frontline Foundation, which was amazing, and that was a huge part of my sobriety too, to really be of service, making sandwiches in a soup kitchen and serving them up down Skid Row. It was where I needed to be, and was the action part of my program that I will never ever forget. I walked in, I really didn't know, I listened, and I really, looking back now, when I walk back in that meeting, what was interesting when I really broke it down to what was the difference of what the heck happened to me, was it changed. The change was I looked at not just the differences between me and everybody else that I was keeping myself away from. I looked at the similarities of who these people were, in the meetings, and how we had so much in common, even though I would never think for 1 second I had something in common with somebody across the room. Right when they opened their mouth, it was like the voice of God. It was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm going through. It was like, how can you imagine? It's like, this is part of recovery. It is amazing. This is my experience. I share this because it's important. It's also, for me, it's important to be a part of my recovery in action, to record this. It's a matter of historical value for my children and for my family, and for anybody else that listens to this, that this influences them. It matters, I had a long discussion with central office down in New York about Tradition 11, about this autonomy, but I got to tell you, I've been sober for 3 decades. And along the way, I can't tell you how many times I've raised my hand identified as a sober alcoholic or an alcoholic, a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know what I mean? And God saved my life, and so did AA. I will be happy to say that I'll break my anonymity any day. The greater good for me is if it saves lives, if it changes lives. How could you be so selfish to think for 1 second that I'm not going to tell you who I am, because I'm going to tell you who I am because if I can influence you through my actions and my example for you to live a better life, or to see the hope or the light in your life, to influence you to do something different, to get off that course of darkness you're on, to show you that there's a better way. I've traveled that way, and let's go this way. So, this is one part of, I want to talk about how I got sober. I'm going to talk about what I've been doing sober for the last 30 years, because that's a whole other can of worms there and ball of wax. But living life sober, I can tell you. So, to recap, I was in the nightclub business for 15 years. I pretty much ran the entire nightclub scene in Los Angeles. I did all the drugs I wanted to do. I worked with rock bands. I worked with the Chili Peppers before they were the Chili Peppers. I worked with some of the most famous people. Did drugs with some of the greatest people. But I got news for you. What was all so great about that was the last 30 years blows that away. Blows that away. And I can't even, there's no words that can describe the experiences and the kind of things that happened to me, and the mind-blowing sort of just the spiritual adventures of like people I've met and people that have been around in my life, and my children and my beautiful wife, and the kind of things I've been through, and the problems from the start to the middle to the end. It's an extraordinary life, and I put both arms around it today. And, I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can out of it. I'm the oldest I've ever been. I'm the soberest I've ever been. And, I've come to realize that without love of my life, all this doesn't mean anything. None of this means a damn thing if I don't have the love in my life, which means I have to love myself. If I don't love myself, then whatever you tell me, whatever the book tells me, whatever God is trying to tell, if I don't love myself and care enough for myself, what does it matter? So loving myself, then I can love you. I can be part of the human race and my fellow man or woman, and you can listen to me. I just think that people don't love each other. You're FOS. You're full of shit. You know what I mean? So love yourself, man. Be good to yourself. Take care of yourself. And do the things, and get a hold of somebody that really knows, or you really like what they're doing, and they're a winner. I really believe that I got lucky to be with the winners. The winners were everything to me. I heard that. I followed the leader, and the leaders were the winners. And, and if anything, it rubbed off on me. And, I thank these guys, and I love these guys for taking and having the patience and being there for me, and being there with open arms. And Gary Dubin is, rest in peace, Gary. Gary passed away. And God bless Gary, And anyway, I hope you're having a great day, and I hope this helps somebody out there. I hope I'm just talking to myself. But I like doing that too. All right, have a great day. This is John Dunn, sober alcoholic today. Enjoy your day.